Before we begin, what would you do if the person you hated most turned out to be your fated mate? Would you choose revenge or destiny? Let me know your answer in the comments. Now sit back, subscribe if you love werewolf romance, and let's dive into today's story. The black iron gates of Mooncrest Academy slowly opened as the taxi rolled inside. My fingers tightened around the strap of my bag. This was it. The place I had hated long before I ever saw it. The place that took my brother away from me. I stared through the window as students walked across the huge campus in neat uniforms. Some laughed with their friends. Others hurried toward the grand building ahead, talking excitedly about the new school year. None of them knew why I was here. None of them knew I wasn't here to make friends. I wasn't here to study. I was here for revenge. The taxi stopped in front of the academy's enormous courtyard. I stepped out slowly. A cool breeze brushed against my face, carrying the scent of pine trees and fresh flowers. The academy looked more like a royal palace than a school. Tall white towers reached into the sky. Marble statues of famous alphas lined the entrance, while silver flags carrying the Mooncrest symbol fluttered proudly above us. Beautiful. Peaceful. It made me sick. My eyes landed on the largest statue. An alpha stood with his head held high, one hand resting on a sword. The words beneath it read, "Strength protects the pack." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "Protects," I whispered. "That's a lie." My brother had believed those words too. And look where they got him. I closed my eyes for a second. No. Don't think about that. Not yet. I reached into my pocket and wrapped my fingers around the small silver pendant hanging from a chain. It had belonged to my brother. The metal was worn from how many times I had held it. "I'll do it," I whispered. "I promise." A loud bell echoed across the academy. Students immediately began moving toward the central arena. The opening ceremony. Hurry! We'll lose our seats. I followed behind them without saying a word. The arena was massive. Thousands of students filled the stone seats surrounding a large circular stage. The noise was almost overwhelming. People laughed, talked, cheered. Some students were already placing bets on who would win this year's Alpha Combat Trial. I quietly found a place near the front. As I looked around, I noticed something strange. Almost everyone kept glancing toward one empty seat on the stage. Girls whispered excitedly, "Do you think he'll come? He always comes." I heard he became even stronger during the break. "I just want to see him once." A girl beside me sighed dramatically. "Kale Ashthorne." The moment she said his name, my body went cold. Kale. My heartbeat became louder. So he was here. The monster himself. The announcer walked onto the stage. "Welcome, students, to another year at Mooncrest Academy." The crowd erupted into cheers. "We welcome our returning students and our new first years. This academy has produced the strongest alphas, betas, and omegas for generations." More applause followed. Then the announcer smiled. "And now, allow me to introduce your student president." The entire arena suddenly exploded with excitement. "Kale! President! Kale!" Everyone stood. Even some teachers smiled proudly. I stayed seated. Then he appeared. He walked onto the stage as if he owned the world. Tall, broad shoulders, dark hair that moved gently with the wind. His uniform fit him perfectly, and the silver badge of the student president shone against his chest. His face was calm, too calm. His sharp gray eyes slowly swept across the crowd. The cheers only grew louder. Girls screamed his name. Some looked like they might faint. I stared at him without blinking. So this was Kale Ashthorne, the alpha everyone admired, the alpha who stole my brother from me. My hands curled into fists. The announcer handed him the microphone. Kale looked over the crowd. His deep voice echoed through the arena. "Welcome back." Just 2 words. Yet the entire crowd cheered again. I couldn't understand it. How could they love him? How could they smile at him? Didn't they know? Didn't anyone know? My chest burned. Before I could stop myself, I stood up. "Liar!" The word echoed across the arena. Everything became silent. Thousands of eyes turned toward me. Even Kale looked directly at me. For 1 second, the whole academy froze. I took a deep breath. Good. Now everyone was listening. "You don't deserve to stand there," I shouted. Whispers immediately spread through the crowd. "Who is she? A first year? Is she crazy?" I ignored them. I kept staring at Kale. You stand there pretending to be everyone's hero. My voice shook, but I refused to back down. You wear that badge like you're some kind of protector. I pointed straight at him. But you're nothing more than a murderer. The entire arena gasped. Someone dropped a notebook. A teacher stood up so quickly that his chair fell backward. What did she just say? She called President Kale a murderer. This girl has lost her mind. The noise grew louder. But I only saw him. Kale. He didn't move. He didn't look angry. He didn't even seem surprised. That calm expression stayed on his face. I hated it. Say something. I yelled. My breathing became uneven. You killed my brother. The words ripped out of my chest. My brother entered the inter-school alpha tournament last year. My voice cracked. He never came home. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I forced them back. I searched for answers. I asked everyone. And every trail led to one person. I pointed at him again. You. The crowd had gone completely silent. No one laughed anymore. No one whispered. They simply watched. I took another shaky breath. My brother died because of you. Kale looked at me quietly. For a long moment. He said nothing. Finally, he spoke. What was your brother's name? His voice was soft. Almost gentle. That only made me angrier. Don't pretend you don't remember. I shouted. You don't get to act innocent. Still, he didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He simply looked at me with those unreadable gray eyes. One of the teachers hurried onto the stage. Enough, he shouted. This is the academy's opening ceremony. Sit down immediately. I won't. Guards started walking toward me. Before they reached me, Kale raised one hand. They stopped. He looked at the teacher. It's fine. The teacher blinked. President. Kale stepped forward. If she wants to challenge me. He looked directly into my eyes. I accept. The crowd burst into shocked whispers. What? He accepted? No way. Kale's voice remained calm. The annual Alpha Combat trial is 1 month from today. His eyes never left mine. Face me there. If defeating me is what you seek, I'll be waiting. The confidence in his voice made my blood boil. He wasn't afraid. Not even a little. You think you'll win? I snapped. I know I will. He simply nodded once. If that's what you believe. His calmness felt like an insult. I couldn't take it anymore. I marched toward the stage. People moved aside quickly. Some tried to stop me. Don't. Are you insane? He's the strongest alpha. I ignored every one of them. I climbed onto the stage until I stood right in front of him. He was taller than I expected. Much taller. But I refused to step back. You think you can just stand there? I hissed. You think staying quiet will erase what you did? He looked down at me without saying a word. That silence pushed me over the edge. Without thinking, I reached out and grabbed his arm tightly. You look at me! I shouted. The instant my fingers touched his sleeve, a blinding silver light exploded around us. The sliver light swallowed everything. I couldn't see. I couldn't hear. It felt as if the whole world had disappeared. Then a voice echoed from everywhere at once. Soft. Gentle. Powerful. It didn't sound human. It sounded ancient. You are fated mates. The words rolled through the arena like thunder. A cold chill ran down my spine. No. 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 The light slowly faded, and I found myself still holding Kale's arm. A glowing silver mark circled both our wrists before slowly disappearing into our skin. The entire arena was silent. Nobody moved. Nobody even breathed. Then the whisper started. The moon goddess. It can't be. They're mates. I've never seen a mate bond appear in front of so many people. Someone screamed. Another student nearly fainted. Teachers stared with wide eyes. Even the guards looked completely shocked. I slowly looked up at Kale. For the first time since I had seen him, his calm face had changed. His gray eyes were wide with surprise. So, he hadn't expected this either. Good. I quickly let go of his arm as if it had burned me. My chest rose and fell rapidly. No! The word barely came out. Everyone turned toward me. No, I said louder. My voice shook, but not because I was afraid. Because I was furious. I reject this. Gasps spread through the arena. One girl covered her mouth. She can't be serious. You don't reject the moon goddess. I looked straight into Kale's eyes. I would rather die than become your mate. The words echoed across the silent arena. Kale didn't answer. His face became unreadable again. The strange voice did not speak a second time. The silver light was gone, but the damage had already been done. The ceremony ended in complete chaos. Students surrounded the arena in small groups, talking over one another. I can't believe what happened. She challenged President Kale, and then they became mates. But she rejected him. I've never heard of anyone doing that. As I walked across the courtyard, I could feel every pair of eyes following me. People whispered the moment I passed. Some pointed, others laughed quietly. I kept my head up. Let them stare. I didn't care. One boy walked past with his friends. She's brave. His friend snorted. Brave? She's stupid. Another girl crossed her arms. Imagine rejecting Kale Ashthorne. I would never. Their voices faded behind me. I gripped my brother's pendant inside my pocket. None of us changes anything. Mate or not, Kale was still the man I blamed for my brother's death. That would never change. Never. By afternoon, everyone already knew my name. I hadn't even attended a single class. As I walked toward the dorm building, several girls suddenly blocked my path. They were dressed perfectly. Their uniforms looked expensive. The girl standing in front had long golden hair that reached her waist. Her makeup was flawless. She smiled, but there wasn't a single kind thing in that smile. So, she slowly looked me up and down. You're Aurora. I didn't answer. She folded her arms. I'm Selena. Several girls behind her smiled proudly. Of course, everyone knew who she was. The richest alpha family. Top student. Captain of the academy's female combat team. And the girl rumored to have loved Kale for years. She took one step closer. So you're the lucky girl. I looked at her. I don't feel lucky. A few girls behind her laughed. Selena didn't. She kept smiling. You know. Her voice was sweet. Too sweet. I've dreamed of standing beside Kale one day. She glanced toward the academy building. And then you arrived. She looked back at me. I don't know whether to laugh or pity you. I don't need either. Her smile disappeared. Good. She moved so close we were almost face to face. Because you don't deserve him. I raised an eyebrow. I don't want him. That doesn't matter. Her eyes hardened. You're not worthy of carrying the moon goddess's blessing. One of her friends stepped forward. You're just some transfer student. Another crossed her arms. Kale deserves someone strong. Someone else added. Not a girl who cries about the past. I felt my fists tighten. Selena noticed. See? She smiled again. You lose your temper so easily. I came here for my own reasons. So leave me alone. She tilted her head. You'll leave on your own soon enough. Then she brushed past my shoulder on purpose. Her friends followed behind her, laughing. I stayed where I was until they disappeared around the corner. Then I finally let out the breath I had been holding. What a wonderful first day. The evening sky slowly turned orange. I sat alone beneath a large tree near the training field. The campus had finally become quiet. I closed my eyes for a moment. Everything had happened too fast. The challenge. The maid bond. The whispers. Selena. None of it made sense. Footsteps approached. Slow. Steady. I didn't need to look. I told you already. I don't want to talk. No answer came. The footsteps stopped beside me. I opened my eyes. Kale stood there with his hands inside his pockets. His face looked just as calm as ever. What do you want? I asked coldly. He looked at me for a long moment. You should be careful. I laughed without humor. That's why you came. He nodded once. Someone is watching you. I rolled my eyes. Please. I'm serious. So am I. I stood up. You expect me to believe anything you say? His expression didn't change. Someone wants you dead. I stared at him. Then I laughed again. Nice try. I'm not lying. I stepped closer until we were only a few feet apart. First, I'm suddenly your mate. Now you're pretending to protect me. What comes next? He stayed silent. That annoyed me even more. You know what I think. I pointed a finger at his chest. I think this is another one of your tricks. His eyes stayed fixed on mine. I don't play games with lives. Really? I gave him a bitter smile. My brother might disagree. For the first time, pain flashed across his face. It disappeared almost immediately. You don't know the whole truth. I know enough. He sighed quietly. You'll understand one day. I don't want to. I turned around. Stay away from me. I walked away without looking back. I refused to hear another word. Every warning, every calm expression, every sentence from him felt fake. He was lying. He had to be. Night settled over Mooncrest Academy. The halls became quiet. Most students were already asleep. I changed into my pajamas and sat on my bed. Moonlight slipped through the window. I took out my brother's pendant again. I wish you were here. My voice was barely above a whisper. I don't know what's happening anymore. I stared at the silver chain resting in my palm. I won't forget why I came. A soft breeze entered through the open window. Then, a tiny sound. Click. I froze. Did someone just open the window? Slowly I turned my head. The curtains moved gently. Too gently. Someone was outside. My heartbeat sped up. Who's there? No answer. The room stayed silent. I slowly stood from the bed. Another sound. A foot touching the floor. Not mine. Someone was inside. Before I could react, a dark figure rushed toward me. I barely jumped aside as a knife slammed into the wall where my head had been. What? Another masked person climbed through the window. Then another. 3. My breathing stopped. Assassins. One grabbed my arm. I kicked him as hard as I could. He stumbled back. Another swung a blade toward me. I ducked just in time. The knife sliced through a curtain instead. I ran toward the door. A masked assassin blocked it. He raised his weapon. There was nowhere left to run. The blade came straight at me. Suddenly, crash! The dorm room door exploded inward. Wood flew across the room. A powerful force slammed into the assassin, throwing him across the floor. Kale! He stood in the broken doorway, his gray eyes glowing brightly. The room instantly filled with the pressure of his alpha aura. The assassins hesitated. Kale didn't. He moved faster than my eyes could follow. One punch. A masked man crashed into the wall. Another rushed him with 2 knives. Kale caught his wrist, twisted it sharply, and the knife clattered onto the floor. The second assassin tried attacking from behind. Kale spun around and drove his elbow into the attacker's chest. The man flew backward, smashing into my desk. The last assassin looked at the others on the ground. His eyes widened. He knew they had lost. Retreat! He shouted. The 3 masked figures rushed toward the broken window. Before disappearing into the darkness, one of them looked back. His voice came out low and hurried. The Alpha ordered us, but not Kale. The words hit me harder than any punch. The Alpha ordered us, but not Kale. Before I could even think, the masked man jumped through the broken window. The others followed him. Within seconds, they disappeared into the darkness. The room became silent except for my shaky breathing. I stared at the broken window. My mind refused to understand what I had just heard. Not Kale. Then who? I slowly turned toward him. He was standing in the middle of my destroyed dorm room. Broken would cover the floor. My desk had been knocked over. The curtain hung in strips where a knife had sliced through it. His breathing was steady, but his eyes were fixed on the open window, as if he expected them to come back. You! My voice came out weak. He finally looked at me. Are you hurt? I quickly looked away. I'm fine. It was a lie. My knees were still shaking. If he hadn't arrived, I didn't even want to finish that thought. Kale walked toward the window and looked outside for a few seconds before closing it. They're gone. I folded my arms. You knew. He looked back at me. You knew someone would attack me. I warned you. His calm answer made my anger return. You could have explained. I tried. You barely said anything. You didn't want to listen. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. Because he was right. I hadn't listened. Still, that didn't mean I trusted him. A loud knock came from the broken doorway. Several teachers rushed inside with guards behind them. What happened? We heard fighting. One teacher gasped when she saw the room. Another looked at Kale. President Ashthorne? They escaped, he answered. The guards immediately ran outside. The teachers began asking me questions all at once. Did you see their faces? How many were there? Are you injured? I answered as best as I could, but my thoughts stayed on those final words. The Alpha ordered us, but not Kale. The next morning, the whole academy already knew about the attack. Every hallway buzzed with whispers. I heard 3 assassins broke into her room. No, someone said there were 5. They say President Kale saved her. I thought she hated him. I still do, I muttered under my breath as I walked past. Students quickly stepped aside when they saw me coming. Some looked scared, others looked curious. I ignored all of them. If someone wanted me dead, then I needed to stop being weak. I walked straight toward the combat training grounds. The large field was already full of students. Some practiced sword fighting, others sparred hand-to-hand. Instructors shouted orders across the field. I marched toward the registration table. The instructor looked up. You want to join combat training? Yes. He raised an eyebrow. It's not easy. I didn't ask for easy. A small smile appeared on his face. Good answer. He handed me a pair of training gloves. Let's see what you can do. Training started immediately. I quickly learned one thing. Everyone here was strong. Much stronger than me. I fought against another first-year girl. She knocked me onto the ground within seconds. I got back up. Again. Every fall made my body ache. But I refused to quit. The instructor finally nodded. Good. You don't stay down. I won't. Before he could say anything else, the students suddenly stood straighter. Someone was approaching. I didn't need to turn around. I already knew. Kale. He walked onto the training ground wearing a simple black training uniform. Without his school jacket, it was easy to see how powerful he really was. The instructors greeted him respectfully. President. He nodded. Then his eyes landed on me. I looked away first. The instructor clapped his hands. President Ashthorne will help supervise today's training. Several students cheered. Girls smiled excitedly. I rolled my eyes. Of course. The golden boy. The instructor pointed toward me. Aurora. I looked up. You're with the president. A few students gasped. Seriously. She's finished. I walked into the training circle anyway. Kale stepped in from the opposite side. He stood calmly with his hands behind his back. Ready. I don't need your kindness. I'm not offering any. The instructor raised one hand. Begin. I rushed forward without thinking. I threw a punch toward Kale's shoulder. He stepped aside. I missed completely. Before I could turn, his foot swept under mine. I hit the ground hard. The students groaned. Too slow. I jumped back up. I wasn't ready. He simply nodded. Again. I attacked harder this time. Punch. Kick. Elbow. Nothing landed. Every single attack missed. Kale moved with unbelievable ease. It was like trying to catch the wind. Suddenly, tap! His fingers touched my shoulder. You would be dead. I gritted my teeth. Again. This time I tried to trick him. I pretended to punch high before aiming low. He saw through it instantly. He caught my wrist. Turned slightly. The next thing I knew, my back slammed into the ground. The air rushed from my lungs. You rely too much on anger, he said. I rely on results. You rely on revenge. I glared at him. What do you know about me? Enough. I pushed myself back onto my feet. Stop acting like you know everything. He didn't answer. That made me even angrier. We fought again. And again. Every single time. I lost. Sometimes in seconds. Sometimes in less than that. Finally, after another failed attack, I dropped to one knee. Sweat rolled down my face. My arms felt like stone. Kale stood in front of me, breathing just as calmly as when we started. He held out one hand. Get up. I slapped it away. I don't need your help. You do. There you go again. I stood by myself. You think you're better than everyone. His expression didn't change. I think you're leaving too many openings. I don't need your advice. You do if you want to survive. I laughed bitterly. There it is. The great Kale Ashthorne, always talking down to people. Without another word, I walked out of the training circle. Behind me, I heard the instructor sigh. She's talented. Kale answered quietly. She'll become stronger. I refused to look back. Later that afternoon, I sat alone outside the library, pressing an ice pack against my sore shoulder. Everything hurt. My legs. My arms. Even my pride. A shadow fell across the bench. Mind if I sit? I looked up. It was Damien. He smiled warmly. Unlike everyone else here, his smile actually looked real. I'll survive. He chuckled before sitting beside me. I saw your training. Then you saw me embarrass myself. I saw someone who refused to quit. I looked ahead. I still lost. For now. Silence settled between us. Then Damien spoke again. Can I ask you something? What? Your brother. My body stiffened. His name was Rowan, wasn't it? I slowly nodded. Yes. Damien looked down at his hands. I knew him. I turned toward him. You did. He was a good fighter. My chest tightened. You were there. He nodded. I was at last year's tournament. I leaned closer. Then tell me, what really happened? Damien stayed quiet for several seconds. When he finally spoke, his voice was low enough that no one else could hear. Cale never fought Rowan. I stared at him. What? He never participated in the final duel. I frowned. That's impossible. It's true. He withdrew before the match. I shook my head. No. I'm telling you what I saw. Someone lied to you. No one lied. I was there. I stood up so quickly the ice pack fell onto the ground. Enough! Damien looked surprised. Aurora, I know who killed my brother. You don't know everything. I know enough. He didn't kill Rowan. He did. Several students turned to look at us. I lowered my voice. I won't let anyone change my mind. Damien slowly stood. I just thought you deserve the truth. I already have it. Without waiting for another word, I walked away. Behind me, Damien let out a quiet sigh. At the same time, far from the academy grounds, inside a dark office, a man sat behind a large wooden desk. Victor slowly poured himself a glass of wine. A masked man stood silently before him. Victor took one slow sip before speaking. You failed. The assassin lowered his head. Cale interfered. Victor's eyes narrowed. I expected as much. He placed the glass on the table. This time, his voice became cold. Do not fail again. The assassin nodded once. It will be done. Victor leaned back in his chair. Bring me her body. That evening, I couldn't stop thinking about Damien's words. Cale never fought Rowan. No, I whispered as I walked through one of the older academy buildings. He's wrong. He has to be. I turned a corner, then stopped. Someone was standing in front of a row of old student lockers. One locker door was open. The number on it caught my eye immediately. My heart skipped. I knew that locker. It had belonged to Rowan. The hooded stranger was searching through my brother's old locker. What do you think will happen next? Will Aurora finally discover the truth about her brother's death, or will her hatred for Cale only grow stronger? And after the moon goddess declared them fated mates, will Aurora accept her destiny, or continue plotting to kill the man she's convinced is her brother's murderer? Share your predictions in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because part 2 of My Enemy is My Fated Alpha is coming soon, and the secrets hidden at Mooncrest Academy are only just beginning to unfold.